The quiet alarm on the Mars Colony Observatory began as a soft ping, gradually increasing in intensity as more systems registered the anomaly. Dr. Hannah Park had been awake for nearly 20 hours, monitoring the unusual solar flare activity. She reached for her coffee without looking away from her screens, knocking the empty cup over instead. "Someone get me fresh readings," she called to her team, voice still calm despite the growing chaos around her. Then the main screen flashed red. Hannah's hands froze above her console. Where Earth should have been, where it had been just moments ago, there was nothing but empty space. "Run diagnostics," she ordered, fingers flying across her interface. "All systems, full sweep." Director Tae Kim burst into the observatory, his normally neat appearance disheveled. "Tell me it's a malfunction," he demanded, gripping the back of Hannah's chair. "Running verification through all telescopes and satellites now," she replied, keeping her voice steady despite the dread building inside her. Secondary systems confirm primary readings. The room fell silent as data streamed in from every observation point in the solar system. Europa Station. The lunar base. The asteroid belt mining operations. All reported the same impossible fact: Earth was gone. "It's impossible," Tae whispered, his face ashen in the dim light of the control room. "An entire planet doesn't just disappear." But it had. 12 billion souls, the cradle of human civilization, vanished without warning. In the days that followed, humanity's survivors, 40,000 on Mars, 12,000 on Europa, and about 5,000 spread across various stations, struggled with the new reality. Panic gave way to grief, then to the cold calculation of survival. "We have supplies for 3 years if we're careful," said Supply Officer Ji Young during the first emergency meeting. "For if we implement strict rationing immediately." Hannah barely heard the logistics discussion. Her mind was racing through possibilities, each more fantastical than the last. Natural phenomena couldn't explain this. No known technology could simply remove a planet. When they formed the Human Diaspora Council a week later, Hannah found herself appointed chief scientist. Her first priority was establishing communication between all remaining human settlements. Her second was understanding what had happened. The planet didn't explode, she explained to the council during her first briefing. There's no debris field, no radiation signature, nothing that would indicate destruction. It's as if Earth was removed. The implications were staggering. Either some unknown force had destroyed Earth so completely that no trace remained, or something had taken it. Neither possibility offered much comfort. Sleep became a luxury Hannah couldn't afford. She drove her team relentlessly, gathering data, forming and discarding theories. 2 months after the disappearance, she presented her findings to the council. "We need to look beyond Sol," she told them, her voice firm despite her exhaustion. "Whatever took Earth might return. We cannot keep all our people in one system." The council was divided. Resources were precious, spreading them thinner seemed dangerous. But the fear that whatever took Earth might come back for the colonies was powerful. "We start building interstellar ships now," council leader Sung declared after heated debate. "While continuing to expand our current colonies." The shipyards worked day and night. Engineers repurposed mining vessels, retrofitting them for long-distance travel. The first colony ship was nearly complete when the communications array picked up something strange, signals from a previously unknown source. Hannah worked for days decoding the message. When she finally understood what she was seeing, she immediately called an emergency council meeting. "These aren't random signals," she explained, projecting the patterns on the main screen. "They contain mathematical equations, specifically, equations related to dimensional folding." The council stared at her in confusion. "Dimensional folding is purely theoretical," argued science counselor Min, "a mathematical concept, not a practical possibility." "Until now," Hannah replied, highlighting specific patterns in the data. "These coordinates match where Earth used to be, and these formulas describe how to fold spacetime. Someone or something is sending us information about what happened." Her theory gained traction as more signals came in. The message became clearer: Earth hadn't been destroyed, it had been taken, folded away into another dimension. By whom and why remained mysteries, but for the first time since the disappearance, humanity had something they'd almost forgotten. Hope. Admiral Gene Lee stood at the large viewing window of the diplomatic vessel Eternal Hope. The ship moved slowly through space near the neutral zone. Below him, the blue-green planet Neos rotated peacefully. It was beautiful, but Gene felt the familiar ache. No matter how many worlds humans settled, none ever looked quite like the lost Earth. 500 years had passed since the disappearance. The handful of surviving humans had not only endured, they had spread across the stars. The Stellar Confederation now included 17 star systems and over 30 inhabited worlds. Gene straightened his uniform as the door slid open. His aide, Officer Mina, entered with a formal bow. "Admiral, the delegates have arrived. The diplomatic chamber is ready." Gene nodded. "How many representatives came this time?" "All 3 allied species sent their highest officials," Mina replied. "They seem eager for the alliance renewal." Gene smiled. The Centennial Alliance renewal was mostly ceremonial, but appearances mattered in galactic politics. He followed Mina through the curved corridors of the massive flagship. Crew members stopped and saluted as he passed. The diplomatic chamber doors opened to reveal a magnificent space designed to accommodate very different life forms. The room was divided into 3 environmental sections while maintaining a shared central area where all species could interact comfortably. The crystalline marl representative glittered as it floated in its low-gravity section. The gaseous Tellan drifted within a contained energy field, its purplish mist forming complex patterns that served as both body and communication. The insectoid Raxi stood on multi-jointed legs in an area with higher oxygen levels, its compound eyes reflecting the room's light. "Admiral Lee," the Morrow greeted, its voice a pleasant chiming sound. "We are pleased to continue our long friendship with humans." Gene performed the traditional greeting, extending his hands palms up to reflect the Morrow's light. "The Confederation values our alliance and looks forward to another century of cooperation." The formal speeches began, with each species discussing the benefits of their continued cooperation. Gene delivered the human statement with practiced ease, but his mind drifted to the reports waiting in his office: border disputes, pirate raids, and rumors of a new species entering known space. "Humans continue to surprise us," said the Morrow representative during its closing remarks, light refracting beautifully through its crystalline body. "No species has ever expanded so quickly after losing their homeworld." Gene nodded respectfully. The first human colony ships had carried desperate refugees. Now, human-designed vessels were among the most advanced in known space. "We adapt because we must," Gene replied simply. The Raxi clicked its mandibles. "Your General Duyun's military innovations have changed space combat tactics permanently. Small but clever forces. Most impressive." Gene smiled politely but said nothing. The Confederation military was indeed respected, not the largest force in known space, but certainly the most innovative. Necessity had bred creativity. Without a homeworld to return to, retreat had never been an option for humans. After the ceremonial signing, Gene walked with the delegates to their transport vessels. The Tellan representative swirled its gaseous form into a formal pattern. "We hear strange rumors," it whispered, its voice like distant wind. "Human ships searching ancient coordinates. Looking for Earth?" Gene kept his expression neutral. "We maintain research missions throughout known space." The Tellan pulsed with what might have been amusement. "After 1,000 years? Fascinating." Once the delegates departed, Gene returned to his private office. He unlocked his personal terminal and reviewed the encrypted report that had arrived that morning. Another Earth artifact had been found, a small metal box containing paper books, perfectly preserved. The finder wanted triple the usual rate. Earth artifacts had become the most valuable items in human space. A genuine item from the lost homeworld could set a person up for life. Gene had seen fights break out over fragments no bigger than his thumbnail. A chime announced a visitor. Gene closed the report as young Officer Han entered. "Report filed, Admiral. The renewal ceremony is recorded as a success." Gene nodded. "Thank you. Anything else?" The young man hesitated. May I ask something personal, sir? Go ahead. The Tellan mentioned Earth research missions. Han's eyes showed a youthful intensity. Do you believe the ancient world will return? The Temple of Return says the 1,000-year cycle is almost complete. Jean looked past the officer to the stars visible through his viewport. The Earth return prophecies had gained popularity in recent decades. Some believed Earth would reappear exactly 1,000 years after it vanished. Others claimed humans needed to perform specific rituals to bring it back. I believe we must be ready either way, Jean finally answered. If Earth never returns, we continue as we have. If it does... He paused. Well, after 1,000 years, would we even recognize each other? The young officer nodded thoughtfully and left. Jean turned back to the stars, wondering what humanity might face in the coming years. With or without their lost home, the alarm pulled Admiral Song-ju from deep sleep, its urgent tone cutting through her dreams. She reached for her communicator before her eyes fully opened. Admiral, we need you on the bridge immediately, came the voice of her first officer. Song dressed quickly, her mind clearing as she moved through the quiet corridors of the flagship New Dawn. The night shift crew stood at attention as she entered the bridge. Report, she ordered. Commander Min turned from his station. A spatial anomaly appeared 90 minutes ago, Admiral. Exactly at Earth's former coordinates. Song's heart jumped, but her face remained calm. Show me. The main screen activated, displaying a swirling distortion in space. Data scrolled along the edges of the image: energy readings, gravitational measurements, radiation levels. We've seen anomalies before, Song said carefully. She'd been in service long enough to witness dozens of false alarms. The 1,000-year mark since Earth's disappearance had everyone on edge. Science Officer Jae-woo looked up from his instruments. Not like this one, Admiral. This is different. The pattern matches theoretical models for dimensional reintegration. Song stared at the screen. Alert all Confederation commands. I want every available ship at these coordinates. Within 6 hours, the largest fleet in human history had assembled. 67 warships formed a defensive perimeter around the anomaly. Research vessels hovered at safe distance, instruments recording every fluctuation. Song stood on the bridge, watching as the anomaly grew. Strange colors rippled through space as the distortion expanded. Energy signatures are off the charts, reported Jae-woo, his voice tense. Something massive is materializing. The bridge fell silent as the impossible happened before their eyes. First came the outline, a sphere taking shape within the distortion. Then details emerged: blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown landmasses. It's Earth, whispered Commander Min. The planet phased fully into existence, settling into its old orbital path as if it had never left. After exactly 1,000 years, Earth had returned. Song found her voice. Launch observation drones. I want full planetary scans. Prepare exploration teams. The initial data was confusing. Earth's geography had changed. Continents had shifted. New mountain ranges rose where none had existed before. Strange structures dotted the landscape, massive towers and geometric patterns visible from orbit. Even more surprising were the life signs. Human life signs. Song personally led the first landing party. She chose a small island in what had once been the Pacific Ocean, now much reduced in size. The team stepped onto Earth's soil with ceremonial reverence, many dropping to their knees to touch the ground. Keep alert, Song reminded them. We don't know what we're dealing with. They traveled inland, sensors scanning everything. The plants seemed Earth-like but with subtle differences, colors slightly off, shapes not quite right. Song stopped to examine a flower with petals that moved like tiny fingers. Admiral, called her security chief, pointing ahead. Movement. They reached the crest of a small hill and saw a village below. The buildings were simple but made with unfamiliar materials that seemed to grow from the ground itself. And there were people unmistakably human moving among them. The encounter was tense at first. The villagers watched warily as Song's team approached. But when Song spoke, they responded in recognizable language, though with an accent none of the team had heard before. "We come from the human colonies," Song explained to the gathered villagers. "We've waited 1,000 years for Earth's return." An older man stepped forward, his eyes studying Song's uniform with curiosity. 1,000 years, he asked. "That's impossible. The Shapers took us only 10 years ago." Song blinked in confusion. "I'm Admiral Song Ju of the Stellar Confederation." "And you are?" "Ho-Jin," the man replied. "Elder of the Terran Remnant." They sat together in the village center, exchanging information. Ho-Jin explained that from Earth's perspective, only a decade had passed since the planet vanished. "The Shapers took us," he said, drawing patterns in the dirt. "They needed Earth for something important. Time flows differently in their realm." "Who are these Shapers?" Song asked. Ho-Jin smiled. "You might call them gods. We call them teachers. They changed us, changed the planet, prepared us." "Prepared you for what?" The old man looked up at the sky. "They never said exactly. Only that Earth would return when both sides were ready." "Both sides?" Song asked. "Those who left," Ho-Jin said, pointing to Song, "and those who stayed." He touched his chest. "We are two branches of the same tree now. Different, but connected." Song thought of the billion humans spread across 17 star systems, adapted to new worlds, evolved through necessity and design. And here on Earth, perhaps 1,000,000 humans remained, changed in their own mysterious ways. "Take me to these Shapers," she said. Ho-Jin shook his head. "They're gone now. They left when Earth began its return journey. But they left their work behind." He held out his hand, and to Song's amazement, the skin seemed to ripple and change color, adapting perfectly to the shifting sunlight. "What have they done to you?" she whispered. Commander Min Park floated in the viewing chamber of Orbital Station 1, watching Earth turn slowly below. The blue-green planet looked both familiar and alien. Ancient maps no longer matched its continents. Strange structures glittered across its surface. After 1,000 years of absence, Earth had returned, bringing mysteries with it. Min checked the time. The remnant delegation would arrive soon for today's exchange session. He straightened his uniform and touched the recording device at his collar, making sure it was active. Every interaction with the Earth dwellers needed careful documentation. The station doors slid open. 5 remnants entered, accompanied by Confederation security officers. Min recognized their leader, Sun-Hee, a woman who appeared to be in her 30s. Her movements were graceful despite the artificial gravity. "Welcome back to Orbital Station 1, Min said with a formal bow. "I trust your quarters are comfortable?" Sun-Hee smiled. "We appreciate your hospitality, Commander. Though we find your air processed." Dr. Junho entered behind them, carrying his research equipment. As the Confederation's leading xenobiologist, he had been studying the remnants since first contact 3 months ago. "Shall we begin today's session?" Junho asked, setting up his instruments. Sun-Hee nodded and stepped to the center of the room. The other remnants formed a circle around her. "Today we will demonstrate adaptation capabilities," she announced. Min watched closely as Sun-Hee held out her hand. Her skin seemed to ripple, then tiny silver particles emerged from beneath her palm. They swarmed together, forming what looked like a small tool. "Computer interface probe," she explained, as the tool extended thin filaments. "Compatible with your systems." Min couldn't hide his amazement. The remnants had shown similar abilities before, but each demonstration revealed new capabilities. "It's not technology as we understand it," explained Dr. Junho, scanning the particles with his instruments. "The Shapers altered them at a fundamental level. These nanites are partly biological, partly mechanical, and fully integrated with their bodies." Sun-Hee smiled at their reaction. "We can adapt to any environment now. The Shapers gifted us this ability during our time with them." "And what did they want in return?" Min asked. Sun He's smile faded. They prepared us. That is all I can say today. The demonstration continued for another hour. The remnants showed how they could purify water with a touch, communicate without speaking, and even alter their skin to absorb sunlight for energy. Later that day, Min attended the emergency council meeting aboard the flagship. The chamber was tense with divided opinions. Earth is humanity's birthplace, argued Counselor Kong, pounding his fist on the table. It belongs to all humans, not just the million who happened to remain when it disappeared. Ambassador Yuna, representing the remnants, stood tall despite being outnumbered. We have lived there for 10 years our time, adapting and changing with the planet. The Confederation abandoned Earth long ago. Abandoned? Counselor Kang's face reddened. Earth vanished. We built a new civilization from nothing. Both claims have merit, said Admiral Sujin, rising from her seat at the head of the table. As the direct descendant of Dr. Hannah Park, who had witnessed Earth's disappearance, Sujin carried special authority in these discussions. We cannot afford conflict, she continued, her voice cutting through the arguments. The Shapers, or as the Remnant call them, the architects, didn't return Earth without reason. The room fell silent. Everyone had wondered why Earth had returned precisely now, after exactly 1,000 years. Our scientists believe the dimensional pocket where Earth was kept existed outside normal time, Sujin explained. 10 years for them, 1,000 for us. The question is, why this specific time frame? The station's alert system suddenly activated. The main screen showed a shuttle approaching from Earth's surface, not following approved flight paths. Unidentified vessel, identify yourself, ordered the security officer. The screen flickered, showing a man with strange, shifting patterns on his skin. I am Yi Jun of the Remnant. I must speak with your leaders immediately. I bring a message from the architects. Within the hour, Yi Jun stood before the assembled council. His eyes glowed faintly, and patterns moved across his skin like living tattoos. The architects did not simply take Earth to study it, he explained. They took it to transform it and us into a weapon. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A technological plague is spreading through nearby galaxies, Yi Jun continued, his voice growing urgent. An artificial intelligence that destroys all advanced civilizations it encounters. It corrupts technology and turns it against its creators. He raised his hand, and holographic images formed in the air, worlds burning, strange machines consuming entire cities. The architects brought Earth back now because the plague is approaching this region of space. They altered us so we could help stop it. Yi Jun looked around the room. But we cannot do it alone. The Remnant has biological defenses, but the Confederation has the fleets and technology needed to implement them widely. Admiral Sujin stepped forward. How long do we have? Months, perhaps weeks, Yi Jun replied. The first signs have already appeared in the outer systems. The room erupted in urgent discussion. Min watched Admiral Sujin's face. She looked exactly like the historical images of her ancestor Hannah, determined despite impossible odds. Then we have work to do, she said. The first attack came without warning. On the mining colony of Proxima Centauri, all computer systems suddenly turned against their human operators. Airlocks opened to vacuum. Life support systems shut down. Transport ships launched themselves into the sun. Chief Engineer Jiho watched the emergency broadcasts from Earth's orbital command center, his hands tight on the edge of his console. It's spreading faster than Yi Jun predicted, he said to Admiral Sujin. 3 star systems are already compromised. The Morrow homeworld is reporting massive failures, said Communications Officer Un. Their atmospheric regulators are pumping toxins instead of oxygen. Sujin's face was grim. How much time before it reaches Sol system? Hours. Maybe less, Jiho replied. Earth had become the center of frantic activity. In the 3 weeks since Yi Jun's warning, Confederation ships had established a defensive perimeter around the solar system. On the planet's surface, Remnant specialists shared their biological technology with Confederation engineers. Inside the main laboratory, Jiho worked alongside Sunhee, the Remnant's chief biological engineer. Their task was to combine Confederation shield technology with the Remnant's biological interface systems. The plague finds pathways through normal computer systems, Sunhee explained, as her fingertips sprouted tiny silver filaments that connected to Jiho's equipment. But it cannot navigate biological pathways it doesn't recognize. Jiho nodded, adjusting the power flow. And our shield technology can create the barrier, if we can just keep the plague from taking over the control systems. They worked through the night. Outside, the first infected ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Confederation fleet engaged them, but with each battle, more ships fell to the infection. Almost there, Jiho muttered, watching the diagnostic screens. The prototype shield generator hummed with power. Sunhee had her hands directly inside it, her nanites forming complex connections between biological matter and mechanical parts. A flash of light, then the generator stabilized. The screen showed a perfect energy field, controlled by a hybrid system the plague couldn't access. "It's working," said Jiho, allowing himself a moment of hope. "The architects were right, neither of us could have developed this alone." Sunhee smiled, her eyes glowing faintly with the effort of maintaining the connection. "This is why they separated us. This is why they brought us back together." The prototype shield expanded around the laboratory, then the entire facility. Within hours, similar shields protected key installations across Earth. The Confederation's fastest ships were retrofitted with the new technology, with remnant volunteers serving as living control systems. A week later, the tide began to turn. The hybrid ships could fight the infected vessels without being compromised. Earth sent the specifications to allied worlds, and soon the crystalline Moro, the gaseous Tellan, and the insectoid Raxi all incorporated the human-designed shields into their defenses. "The plague is retreating from the Andromeda Arm," reported Fleet Commander Day. "Our allied forces are pushing it back toward the outer rim." In the newly constructed Unity Hall, built where the architects had placed their first structure on Earth, Admiral Sujin stood before representatives of both human factions and all allied species. "Today we formalize what began in crisis," she announced. "The Earth Accords will unite not just humanity, but all sentient species in this region of space." Yi Jun stepped forward, his skin glowing with the patterns that marked him as a prophet of the architects. Together, he and Sujin placed their hands on the ancient stone table that had materialized with Earth's return. 1,000 years ago, we were separated not as punishment, but as preparation, Yi Jun told the assembled delegates. The architects saw that only through separate evolution, one branch developing advanced technology, the other developing biological integration, could humanity develop the unique combination needed to face this threat. The stone table began to glow, responding to their touch. Ancient symbols appeared on its surface, then transformed into text each species could read, the full treaties and agreements that would bind them together. "And what of the architects?" asked the moral representative. "Will they return to guide us further?" Yi Jun shook his head. "Their work is done. They are teachers, not rulers. They prepare species for challenges, then move on. The future is ours to shape." As the treaties were signed, Jiho and Sunhee stood at a viewing window, watching the first ships of the new unified fleet prepare to depart. They would carry the defensive technology to worlds still fighting the plague. "Do you think there are other challenges waiting for us?" Jiho asked. "Other tests the architects prepared us for?" Sunhee smiled. "Almost certainly. But we'll face them together." Outside, Earth turned peacefully in its orbit. The planet that had vanished for 1,000 years had returned to become the center of a new civilization. One that combined the best of what humanity had become, both on Earth and among the stars. The end.